Welcome to Upper Lafayette on the Move. I'm Jan Swift. I'm honored to have as today's guest my new executive assistant, Elsa Dimitriades, who's also managing director of Wanderlust Theater Company. Elsa?
Thank you for having me.
Welcome to the foundation and welcome to our show. I have to confess, this is a very selfish thing of me to do, but I've been so impressed getting to know you. Just met your husband, Brady, your partner, and I've heard so much about what your theater does. I wanted to share you and your talent with everyone. So
thank you
for agreeing to appear on the show with me and for working with us.
Absolutely, it's my honor.
Well, thank you. Let's talk first about your background. Where did you grow up and your background in college, et cetera?
I grew up in Washington, D.C., and my parents retired to Mobile, Alabama, and so I wanted to go to a school kind of in proximity to them. So I went to the University of Southern Mississippi for undergraduate school, and then I went to the Savannah College of Art and Design for graduate school.
Known as SCAD.
Yes.
Right, yeah.
Yes, and then Brady and I went into the film industry, and so we moved to New Orleans, and he was offered a position at UL, and so we moved to Lafayette.
Mm-hmm. How long have you been here?
5 years.
So you're active still. I know you're teaching, right? Currently, you teach.
I teach workshops now, but for the most part, I will teach special classes, theater classes, puppetry, that sort of thing. We also, in the summer times, go back to New Orleans and teach in the public school system there.
Right. So tell me about your time in New Orleans, though. I know you did quite a bit at Tulane, right?
I did. We moved there for film, and we really missed kind of the academic world. Both of us really love to teach, and so I took a position at Tulane, being their operations director for the Department of Theater and Dance, and so I ran that department, and I was also able to teach classes in arts administration, which is, you know, what I do.
Right.
And then Brady took a position in the teaching costume design and technology, so we were able to work together again.
That's great.
So yes,
yeah.
We've been very lucky that way.
Yeah. So what is Wanderlust Theater? I looked at your website. It looks like y'all do all kinds of plays and different things in the community. What is that?
We do. It's a theater company, and what we really like to do is tell stories, and we'll use whatever medium is the best way to tell that story. So if a puppet is the best way to do it, that's great. If it's music, then we use music. If it's just kind of traditional, then we'll do a traditional presentation. But we're really interested also in giving back to the community, and if that's by working with at-risk youth, we'll do that. If it's by making sure that artists are employed in our community so that can actually be a gainful means of employment, then we do what we can to do that as well.
Right. Yeah, I want to talk about the at-risk youth later. I want to focus on that. But tell me what it's like to run a theater company in a town the size of Lafayette. I mean, we're a pretty progressive community, but it's medium-sized for a city.
It is, and it is progressive, and so the material that you do, we're very fortunate to be able to you know, it doesn't have to be only conservative material. You know, people are very open-minded. What is difficult is that the community is very comfortable supporting local music and foods, but theater is relatively new as an art form that the average person is coming out to support. So that's really what we're trying to do, is really, we did a show at Johnson's Boucanier outside this summer, and people brought their blankets, and they could eat food, you know, whatever they bought at Johnson's, or they could bring their own food, and there were kids and dogs, and so we're really trying to make theater accessible and make people feel like anybody can go to the theater.
Right.
You know.
Do you tell me about that? You and your husband set up the set, right?
Well, our
right
whole
next
company,
to
yes,
the restaurant.
Our company came out and and built a stage, and it was raked. It was 30 by 30 foot stage, and but every night we had to take all of the set down and store it and bring it back out the next day. And
so it's never easy.
It isn't, but it's so much fun, and it's a great bonding experience for everybody in the company.
So if people want to, you know, I've had Jenny Kruger on the show before, and she tried to. She didn't try. She did promote going to the symphony as similar to a family going, you know, fast food and then going to the movies.
Absolutely.
It's an affordable option, and I'm assuming that going to local theater is relatively affordable.
Oh, absolutely. And we're committed to making sure that our tickets are no more than a movie price, you know? And I don't want people to feel like they have to sit in a stiff chair and dress up and it's something highbrow, because, I mean, our theater is anything but that.
Right.
You know, come and have a good time, be moved, think about things a little differently. And that's what we'd like. You
So
know?
Wanderlust isn't like a building itself. You go on site to different places.
We're an itinerant theater company, so so we try to find venues that either need us to maybe draw attention to their venue, or it's a venue that's perfect for the story that we're trying to tell.
So what type of productions have you been doing lately? What's
we'll do anything from a classic we did of Mice and Men this recent year. We did a very avant-garde piece at the ACA to the Shakespeare piece that we did outside of Johnson's. So so we do a wide variety.
Right.
This year coming up, we have a really strange brand new musical that we'll be doing in December, and it was done in New York and in LA, and we'll be the third city to do it.
What is it?
So it's called Mr. Burns, and it's a play about what happens after the apocalypse, and or something that you know, something the grid falls, you know, and people are telling stories, and what stories do they tell? And it happens to be that they tell episodes of The Simpsons. They'll say, "Oh, do you remember when this happened?" And so they'll tell stories, and it turns into a musical, and it's fun and funny, and it's nice to be on the cutting edge of theater nationally,
right,
you know?
Right. Will you be performing or just behind the scenes?
I will be directing the piece. Nobody wants to see that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, who else? Like, are there a lot of local actors, or most people have day jobs and then they, you know, practice at night, or do some people live off their art?
For the most part, our actors in our company are talent theater teachers within the school system, or they teach at the university, and then we are producing shows at night. So luckily, they're able to at least be teaching their field.
Right.
But a lot of theater artists, you know, are not able to do that, you know, and we're really striving for creating a creative class here in Lafayette, where that can be your job, you know.
Yeah.
And so we're working on it, you know, but it's a long road.
Let's talk about the at-risk youth. As you know, a lot of the schools in Upper Lafayette, we're working, schools are improving, they've got great administrators in, but we have a lot that can be done. And I'd like to hear about your experiences in working with youth that maybe need attention or maybe need to be made aware of their own talents. You know?
Absolutely. I started really early. I just gotten out of college, and Hattiesburg, Mississippi, which is a comparable size to Lafayette. They were looking for arts as an outlet for their youth that they had deemed as at risk. And so with the help of the university social work department, we started a program where we would go into the subsidized housing and offer after-school programming, and then also go to the juvenile justice, the juvenile detention centers, and actually go and service the students there, or the students there, and it was a very humbling experience. You know.
So?
It was one of those experiences where it's like, there but by the grace of God go I, you know, that it could be any of us. And we just were not in that situation, you know. And so, and you're not there, you're not going to make them a professional actor. You're there to give them a moment that they're not where they are, you know, in their minds. And you work with them, and maybe it's an outlet, a way for them to express themselves in a safe place, in a safe way, you know.
Which they probably don't have much of.
Right. And,
to act really goofy, or to have fun stretching themselves.
Right, or say, hey, I'm in emotional pain this way, and maybe I can express this through a character rather than exposing myself, you know. And so I did that for a number of years, and then moved to New Orleans and was able to work with the Young Audiences program there, and continued to do that. And
what is that, Young Audiences?
It's Young Audiences of Louisiana, and they go into schools that don't have arts programming, and they provide it. And they use only working artists. So you have to be, you know, you have to be walking the walk, you know. And you go in the afternoons, and it's a lot of times for children who aren't able to go home right away after school, whether it's not a safe environment or their parents are working or whatever. And they feed them breakfast, lunch, and an evening meal. And I don't know. It's just it's a very heartening experience.
You think the kids, did some of them want to pursue the arts?
Absolutely. I had one student, Jarvis McKinley, who actually went and became a dancer with Alvin Ailey in New York.
Oh my gosh.
I know, right?
Really?
Yes.
And he never probably would have even thought about that.
Not at all. Not at all. And
My goodness.
he's always my go-to, the person I always think of when things get frustrating, or, I mean, because it's not always the
Success
easiest
stories,
experience, right? But you think, well, you know, if I have a handful of Jarvises in my life, you know, it's worth it.
Yeah.
So, and we've been able here to work with a recovery academy, which is Acadiana Outreach. The women came and we did a puppetry workshop with them, and they did shadow puppetry, and it was beautiful, and they got to talk about their life experiences.
So they could really get out some of their own,
absolutely,
like you're saying, like the children did.
Right.
They could relieve some frustration.
Because the arts work that way for everybody, no matter what their age group.
Yeah, that's so neat. Gosh.
So outreach is a big part of what we do.
Well, how is it, I wanted to get in with our discussion today about promoting what you do. You know, I saw your website. I'm assuming that you and your husband maybe built that yourself.
Right. We built the website, and we keep that updated as well as, you know, Facebook and Twitter. And
so people can just Google Wanderlust Theater
Company, yes.
and they'll find this
absolutely,
in Lafayette.
Easily.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's a challenge. It's a lot of things, a lot of balls to keep up in the air. And like we were talking about, you know, you're trying all the time to fire on all cylinders.
It's difficult.
That's an expression that our technical
we always try.
Right, our technical director is always Duncan Thistlethwaite is always telling us, you know, we have to fire on all cylinders, and I always think about that, you know. But it's hard, you know. You take a day off or 2 days off, and you know the sacrifice that you're making by doing that, you know.
But you have to.
But you have to.
Yeah.
You know, because it's a marathon and not a sprint.
Right. Well, I've learned so much. Running the foundation, I had been a lawyer, you know, in a past life, and I still am, but I didn't have to do all the promotional things. And I had no idea a few years ago what it was like to actually keep a small business running. Because as lawyers, we didn't advertise. And I mean, I know a lot of lawyers do, and it's fine, but we really didn't. And I have had to pick up experience using, you know, what they say social media, but Facebook. I don't do Twitter, but I should be. And having to learn how to do the website and a monthly newsletter and this TV show. And there's so many things you can do to promote your business, but I guess you were trained in that when you were in college. I was SCAD.
I was lucky to be trained that way. And what's interesting is there's always a new way.
I know. It seems like you figure out one thing and then it either changes or something new just comes down the block, you know.
And there's always studies coming out about the right verbiage you're supposed to be using, or, you know, if more graphics or less graphics, or what the content. Right, exactly. Yeah. And, you know, I'm fortunate, I think, because I enjoy it. But I can imagine that if you were a small business owner, but that wasn't something that you were, you know, passionate about, that maybe you'd want a little help.
Or comfortable with.
Right,
you know?
Absolutely.
Because you'll be working with us to promote our members, but I'll look at some of their Facebook pages and ours too, and it's been a work in progress because I didn't realize there are parameters between the business and the personal Facebook. And I can just see how people would need help with this. So,
well, I'll tell you, even for when we built our first website, I bought a book that was building websites for teens, because I felt like if it was a book geared for teenagers, that certainly I would be able to understand it.
And it worked.
But you have to educate yourself, you know, and you have to think, oh, there's always something else I could be doing.
Right, and there
you know,
is.
and there is.
Yeah. So you're trying to get me to do Instagram.
Right.
What's all that about? I know what it is, but I mean, what businesses do that, right? Small business.
And I mean, people do it as well, but for sure, businesses, and like we'll post photos, in process photos, like, oh, we're shopping today at the thrift store. Here's some stuff we picked up, and it's just a quick pic, and we upload it, and that way it doesn't have to be quite as groomed as things that you would put on your website or on your Facebook page.
Right. Yesterday I was at a luncheon that the Independent put on, and I sat with some people from Brothers, and they were saying they really use Instagram. You know, like they get new clothes in or a sale, they'll post it, and it just, things move quickly.
Absolutely.
Even more so than Facebook. Instagram seems to be very effective for what they're doing.
For sure. And what we try to do is just cover all of our bases and do all of it, you know, but for example, yesterday, there was a movie that came out that Jodie Foster did called The Beaver, and I was interested in whether or not it had ever been a play because it was an interesting story. So we tweeted the guy who wrote the film.
You did?
And just said, "Hey, have you ever thought about doing a stage production of this?" And he wrote back to us like within a couple hours, and he was like, "No, not yet, but there's interest in this one," and it was just so personable. All the walls have really broken down now that we have social media the way that we do.
And that's empowering.
Yes, it is.
I never have reached out to someone like that. That's cool. I mean, I guess I would have written a letter in the past, and now you can just instantly get something. So what would small businesses do? Like, we represent, Upper Lafayette has a lot of mom and pop type businesses.
Right.
What type of thing would a uniform shop or a Bros Mart, a grocery store, would they use Instagram? And would they?
I think that they certainly could. I think that if I were, say, a uniform store, I would start with definitely a Facebook presence, do some promotion, ask questions, put contests, to get people involved. But I think also Twitter is really great because you can connect with other small businesses in your area. And then you guys can be tweeting amongst one another, maybe, form some kind of collective of other small businesses in the area,
right?
And so I think that there's power in numbers, when you're a small business, and we feel like that even in the theater community. You can't be an island. You have to share actors, and you have to, and so it's important that if you're similar. Yes, they're competitors, but they're also your greatest allies. You need something, you call them up.
Right. So you network with the Maureen Brennans, the
absolutely,
City Days
CTA
Art.
and the ACA and the folks over at Theater 810. You have to, and so that's what I would say to a uniform store. That maybe you hold off on Instagram, but you start with the powerhouses, which is Facebook and Twitter.
Right. Do you think most people need to have professionals helping them with their websites and Facebook? I mean, I don't know if you've done much with that, but do you think that
I think that if you can find like somebody who's interested in using their skill set to help small businesses, that's great. But I also think that you can go to Barnes and Noble and buy a book on how to do things. If you have the time and you're willing to and there's websites like Wix.com, Wix.com, and you don't even code anything. You just drop and drag and
like Weebly. I've seen Weebly.
Right, and I mean, it may not be exactly what you're looking for, but it's a great first step, So
you just get your domain and then
absolutely,
set it up.
absolutely. And on Wix, you don't even have to do that. It's just Wix.com/ and then whatever your name is. So even if you're not ready to have your own domain name, it's a free website.
Right.
So I would say there are no excuses. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I know when I was interviewing for a new assistant, I'd look at some people's resumes and I would go look at a website. I guess a lot of people do that when they're marketing themselves.
Absolutely.
For a position also, right? They'll set up a website.
Or LinkedIn.
Yeah, LinkedIn. Well, we're not doing that much. What do you think about LinkedIn? Is that, do you do that as much in the arts? Or?
Not as much in the arts, but some people do, and I get a lot of requests to validate that someone is putting my name out there and have you worked with them and that sort of thing.
Right.
But for the most part, the arts world, especially theater, is still a word of mouth, community. It's a small enough community, even nationally, that, we'll get a phone call and say, hey, this person applied, your name's on their CV, have you worked with them, what are they like, And
so it's like a valuable tool for...
It is.
I guess validating someone.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, it's all just so many words to some of us because it's happened not overnight, but really just think back 5 years ago, how things have changed. And I just feel fortunate I was working in this nonprofit world because I had to figure out quickly how to do, marketing with no budget. We had no marketing budget.
Right.
And so I was really, it was fun.
And so many of these things are free.
What to do. I know.
You really don't have to have a very, very large marketing budget. But I mean, when I entered college, they made us get an email address.
You had to?
Yeah, it was, that was, and we were kind of on the cusp of that. And we were like, email. What's that going to be? Yeah. But I mean, our lives have completely changed.
I remember getting my first cell phone in the 80s. I mean, I still have the same phone number I've had forever, and I shouldn't say that, but it was so cool I'm in the car, My girls go, Mom, stop it. Don't tell people that.
I have the same email address, which is nice.
That you do, yeah, that you've had.
I didn't have to have like numbers, and I didn't have to come up with anything clever. It's just my name.
Yeah, because that's an unusual
right.
Yeah, last name. So, well, let's take our last few minutes. I want to go back to some of the things you do, I guess, with your company and with your husband. You tell me that y'all go in and you can actually help, I love this story, help people put on fairs or carnivals or even fun events. I mean, tell me about that, because so many people are looking for new ways to put on fundraisers, as are we. But you were telling me, I don't know if you want to mention the client,
absolutely.
But tell us about what you're doing upcoming this fall.
We lately have been able to expand in an effort to employ more artists. We've been able to expand to be able to provide sets, costumes, talent, props for corporate and private events.
Oh, that's so much fun.
So our first large event is going to be on October 2nd. Lafayette General Health and their foundation has their annual gala, and this year they're doing a turn of the century carnival.
How fun.
And so we are doing all of the booths and the games, as well as all the people who man them, and also some interesting entertainment that you might see at a turn of the century carnival.
That's really cool.
And so we're going to have
barkers
and a mermaid.
A mermaid.
Yes. She'll be in a bathtub all night.
Oh.
And so there's going to be plenty of things, and it's fun because we get to do what we've been trained to do, and it's also a business.
Right.
It's not just because we love it. Because like we had talked before, if you go to a doctor, they went to school to be a doctor. We pay them to be a doctor. And artisans are the same. And so we're striving to create that creative class here in Lafayette.
That's awesome, though. I mean, to go help people put on fun parties.
Absolutely.
Because I know that's a big gala, and it is. That's a great hospital.
From what I understand, it's 800 to 1,200 guests. So it's going to be huge.
Are people supposed to dress like they're back in the
No, I think that they come. They come, in their cocktail gala wear, and we're there, kind of creating the environment for them.
And what's going to happen to all the sets when it's done?
Interestingly, they're going to be donated to Northside High School, so that they can put on a carnival. So that this stuff that's being built will have a life.
Right. And I bet it can be paid forward from there too.
Absolutely.
Other schools. So
absolutely.
We'll have to come up with something fun for Upper Lafayette.
That'd be fun.
Just so I don't have to sing. You don't make anybody sing.
No. No, but that would be great fun.
Yeah.
Really. Some kind of evening event, maybe.
I know. That's why I just feel it's so important to be surrounded by creative people, because I didn't bring that to the table, and to have people like you and others that have been able to help me with, seeing things outside of just the traditional box.
Right.
Running a nonprofit. I really think that one reason Upper Lafayette has done well is we just have fun.
Right.
But I want to bring it to a different level, and I really saw that we could do that with your creativity. So I want to
thank you.
Thank you so much for
for us
what
too,
you're
as artists, people like you who are incredibly driven, whereas artists sometimes are like, oh, I think I'll paint a painting today. I think that everybody has their assets that inspire the people around them. So
yeah. So I came off as driven. I know that's just got a lot to do, want to make things happen. So
well, that's lovely.
Yeah. Well, I hope we got everything in.
I hope so too.
Demetriadis, I mastered your name. I look forward to working with you, and I really want to see Wanderlust Theater Company get its name out there.
Well,
so I was honored to be able to talk about that today too.
Well, I'm very excited to work with Upper Lafayette.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We welcome you, and thank you also for being here watching our show. On behalf of Upper Lafayette Economic Development Foundation, I'm Jan Swift, and you've been watching another episode of Upper Lafayette on the Move. Thank you for joining us.